Alright, so now that we got the wheel and tire off, we got the Jeep on a jack stand. The first thing you want to do is remove your caliper. The reason I'm going to do this, I'm going to remove the caliper, I'm going to set it over to the side, and I'm actually just going to take the whole knuckle assembly off the Jeep. And the biggest reason is these Dana 60 knuckles are pretty heavy, so if you're trying to like not take the caliper off and you're trying to manhandle this thing, it's just going to be a pain, rather than just take a couple bolts out, take the caliper off, and then we'll throw it on the bench, replace the ball joints with some new ones. Make sure that you set this up somewhere where it's not going to fall down. Usually on any of your lower control arms, you can just set it there. Sometimes you need a bungee cord it up, but this one's going to sit pretty good. So the next thing is there's 4 bolts on the back of the knuckle or the inside here. Actually hold your hub on. So we're going to take them bolts off, that way we can go and pull the whole axle shaft assembly out. Alright, so there's a better view of the stud right there. Like I said, there's 4 of those on the back side, and all they have is a nut like that on the back. I want to remove is my high steer tie rod. It's obviously pretty simple, just one straight bolt going through. Alright, so the last thing's pretty simple. You got a top ball joint, lower ball joint. We just want to take the nuts off those. Alright, so more than likely this thing's just not going to fall out. Best case, put the top nut on, cast a nut. I always like to line the top of the nut with the top of the threads. A couple hits like that, it's going to drop down. This will do 2 things. It's not going to mess your threads up on your ball joint. Not that you really care because you're taking this one off. But if you weren't changing that ball joint out, you mess those threads up. And the next thing is, when you hit it, it doesn't let it just fall to the floor and then smash your toes. So do that. Then you lift the knuckle up a little bit. Take that nut off, and then take it off. Alright, so obviously you're going to need a ball joint kit. If you do not have one of these, most parts stores will rent it out to you. You have to obviously pay for it. Once you return it, and obviously you don't break anything, you'll get all your money back. So, I mean, really all you're paying for is the ball joints. The first thing we're going to do is remove a snap ring on the top of the knuckle. So the very top ball joint's held in with a snap ring. If you're not familiar with the snap ring is, it's right here. Now there's 2 different snap rings. There's some where you actually got to spread it like this one's going to be, and then there's some, if it's like an internal one, where you got to squeeze it and pull it out. In order to do that, you're going to need a set of snap ring pliers. Now this is just a cheap set, but it's not a bad idea to get a pair of these just to have out in the garage. Alright, so when you look at this ball joint kit, it's actually pretty simple. All it is a C-clamp, a big C-clamp, and then you got all these I guess you call them dies or adapters and stuff like that. Some sleeves, and pretty simple. What you're going to do is you're going to C-clamp this ball joint out of the knuckles. So depending on which way it goes, which I'll show you here in a minute, and then you're going to use some of these sleeves. And you're not going to use all of these. It depends on what size ball joints you're working on. Obviously these are going to be some bigger ones. So you're going to put some of these sleeves in here where you can push the ball joint through the knuckle. It's actually pretty simple. It's actually pretty straightforward. Alright, so first ball joint is out. The biggest thing when you're doing these, when you're pushing these out, and especially when you're putting them in, you want to make sure that you are in the center of that ball joint and you're pushing that ball joint straight. What you do not want to do is put these in or take them out at an angle. You could actually kind of wobble this out, and then the new ball joint's not going to fit. So you obviously don't want to mess this up in here because it's going to make it a lot harder to get that new one in. All right, so we're rocking on this thing now. So we got the ball joints out. Now we got a bare knuckle. What I like to do, this one isn't rusted that bad because I cleaned this axle recently. But we all know rust just continues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this rust off the best I can, throw some primer and paint on it. What I also want to do, I'm going to do that first, I think. It's that, or you can clean these out and then tape them up because you don't want to get primer or paint in here. But what I want to do is I really want to clean, probably take a little bit of steel wool or something and just clean these out real good. They're actually not too bad, but you just want to clean them out, any burrs and any little rust and stuff like that. Get that out of there. It's going to make the new ball joints go in a lot better. All right, so this is going to come with ball joint, seal, castle nut, pin, and then these right here are greasable ball joints. So this one came with a greaser. All right, so when installing these, we're just pretty much just going to go in reverse order. So the way you took them off is the way you're going to put them back on. All right, so I'm going to go and put the upper ball joint in first. So obviously we're going to push this ball joint into the inside of the knuckle. So I put a little adapter on this end and it's just going to suck that ball joint right inside there. Like I said, when you're doing this, you're just going to have to go through. I mean, there's just a lot of choices in here and you're just going to have to figure out the right ones. And you might have to change them out, you know, depending on if they give you some long tubes or not. You might have to go so far, change out the tube or something like that. That's normally the hardest part, is getting the right tube size, especially when you're trying to get into these bigger ball joints. Sometimes it's hard to find long tubes and stuff like that. So this is how I got it set up. So like I said, the C-clamp is going to push onto here. Now this here is actually pushing on the knuckles, so it's not going to push in. And what it's going to do is draw this ball joint back inside the knuckle. When you're doing this, I always like to go slow starting out. You're going to know if it's going to work good or not. Like I said, you want to make sure this is set up straight. If it's not, if it's canted, you're going to know right away because that ball joint's not going to really push in very good. All right, so the ball joint's in. So on these ball joints, the ones that don't have a snap ring, you're just going to press it till it stops. It's actually pretty simple. And some of them have this little lip will actually stick up. Now this lip isn't quite as high as the stock ones, but you just want to press this in until it stops. And you should be able to kind of look in here and actually see if it's seated all the way or not. But like I said, press it till it stops and then you should be good to go. Now that we got the top one, we're going to go and knock out the bottom. So when I start these, I like to start them and make sure they're centered. You'll be able to feel it. These got all these splines around. That's just so it grabs into this inner ring. So when you put it in there, you'll be able to tell if it's straight or not. And it's a good idea, you know, just kind of get started off right with your hands, and then go ahead and put your attachments on there. What you don't want to do is just kind of throw this thing in there real loose while it's moving around. Get it in there snug, put your attachments on, and then you'll be good to go. Now on this one here, it's going to stick through quite a bit. I'm going to go ahead and get it started, and then I'm going to go and change out these to a smaller one. All right, so I got this one pushed all the way to flush, but I need to bring it back through just a little bit due to the snap ring getting it put on there. So for this one, I'm going to have to get something that goes over that ball joint itself, like this one right here, and then it'll allow that to push through. So on this one, it's pretty much simple. You need to get this pulled through enough to get the snap ring on there. So and these come with new snap rings. The upper one does. So you pull that through. Once you got enough room to get that snap ring on, you can stop. All right, so we got this one all done. It's ready to be installed. It's actually, like I said, it's pretty simple. I went ahead and threw a little grease in the grease zerks. Got my rubber grommets on, or dust covers, whatever you want to call them. Those are on, so we go ahead and install it, and then reinstall the caliper and everything else.